Yo guys, what is up? Carman now back with another video, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing this 2013 Toyota Prius. We're going to be going over the specs, and the features of the car, tell you what it's like to own in terms of running costs and how it drives. As many of you guys already know, this exact car belongs to Issa's pops, so shout out to Issa for lending me this car. Yeah, so without further ado, let's go on with the video. This Prius right here is obviously the Mark III Prius. So this is the third generation, and I believe that was introduced in 2009, and it received like a sort of similar to like BMW's LCI. It received like a mini sort of facelift, which is what you see here from 2013. So as standard, you get these LED daytime running lights. You've also got your fog lights here and your headlights here. Now, depending on the trim line, obviously I'm not too sure what trim line this exact Prius is, but who cares, because I'll be honest, the only main one you should care about is T-Spirit. The rest are just, what they are, innit? But yeah, so with T-Spirit, I believe they came with these sort of nice looking LED headlights, whereas these are halogens. But yeah, that's the front of the car. It's very obviously Toyota Prius-like. Make of that of what you will, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think, me personally, I think it looks alright. It looks exactly like what you'd want a commuter car to look like. But yeah, so moving on to the side, if you like to just come with me, we've obviously got these 15-inch wheels. So yeah, you can get various sizes. This is the smallest size, 15-inch. They usually come with covers on them, silver sort of hubcaps. These obviously don't. These are just black to match the car's aesthetic. And yeah, you can also get 17-inch wheels, which do look nice. So we've also got these, obviously these mirrors. Now, depending again on trim line and options, you can either get the normal standard mirror, which also looks very similar, and power folding. These ones on this specific car, as I'll just show you now, are indeed power folding, and they come with a nice little indicator strip on the side. Again, very Toyota-like. So very convenient, very nice feature. This also, if you'd like to come closer, just see on these little lines on the door, that indicates sort of like comfort access, keyless entry. So you've got the key in your pocket, ideally, let's say the car's locked, you just unlock it like so, and then you can also lock the car whilst you're next to it. Obviously, I've got the ignition running, which is why we're locked, and now it won't shut up. Okay, so now we're at the rear of the car. We've obviously got this nice little iconic Prius boot-link spoiler. But I only think this really looks good if you have limo tints like this car does, because otherwise you get like a sort of fishbowl effect, and then you've got this awkward black plastic running through the middle. Doesn't look great. Whereas now it looks nice and flush. So I'd definitely recommend getting tints if you own a Prius of this generation. Now, as you can see, you've also got these LED tail lights as standard, and I really think they set the car off. I think personally the rear of the car in general is the best angle for this generation Prius. We've also got an exhaust down there, pretty standard stuff. It's nothing special. And lastly, got a reverse camera there, which is standard on all models, I believe. So guys, let's show you a quick view of the engine. This is where obviously the bonnet release is. So and the latch itself will be just under there. I've sent it to the Toyota badge, and obviously no hydraulic struts. This is obviously a Toyota Japanese car, so you have to use the sort of strap, not the, you have to use the brace they provide, which is, where the fuck is the brace? What? So guys, apparently I'm a blind motherfucker. It's literally right there. So obviously, like I said, let's try to do this one hand. That will essentially slot in that hole there. Alright, so it literally pops into that socket right there, and lo and behold, this is the engine bay. Inside it is obviously the 1.8 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, and that's obviously mated with a generator slash battery which charges itself, which combined power makes around 134 brake horsepower and 142 newton meters of torque, which is obviously not groundbreaking figures, and that explains 0 to 60 time of 10 seconds. That said, honestly, you'll find out later in the video as well, the performance is not that bad, you know, obviously compared to, well, the thing is, I'm comparing it to you know, stuff like courses where, you know, the 0 to 60 will be like 14-15 seconds, and compared to that, obviously the Prius does feel quite rapid, but I guess it's also the delivery of torque due to the electric power from the battery, because that obviously gives it sort of an instantaneous kind of feel down low. So I'd say like around 0 to 30 miles an hour, and obviously after that it starts dying out, because after all this power is also mated to a CVT transmission, which, as you guys might know, is just so arse when it comes to, you know, motorway and dual carriageway driving. Around city is fine, I guess, but on motorways and stuff, the engine's gonna be screaming, literally screaming, trying to extract all the power out. And obviously that's all driven via the front wheels. Yeah, so all Priuses are front wheel drive. Yeah, so that sums up the sort of drivetrain sides of the Prius. Alright, so before I give you guys an interior tour, let me just quickly start it up. So start to stop, foot on the brake, you know, key in pocket, and that's the car on, believe it or not. Obviously hybrid power, so engine's not even on, but the car can move if it wants to, you know, using the electric power. Let's just try put it into power to try and engage the engine. So I'm just going to rev the accelerator. So now the engine's kicked in. I don't know if you guys can hear that, because it is literally that quiet. Obviously not the silkiest of engines, but at the same time, for being a 1.8, it is a rather quiet unit at the same time as well. Obviously that's with the bonnet open at the moment. In terms of the idle sound, and it's just shut off as I want to hear the idle, so let me literally give it a few revs. So that's the CVT. Yeah, exactly. I mean, is there really much point of me giving it an exhaust rev sort of footage? I don't know, guys, because this thing hardly makes noise. But that said, these cars are obviously very common for you know, catalytic converter theft, which makes such a difference to the exhaust note. Literally sounds so brutal when it's obviously got no exhaust, which is obvious, but yeah, you wouldn't expect it out of a Prius when these things are decatted. So guys, yeah, so whether you guys were able to hear anything out of that, I don't know. Comment down below if you were. Honestly, don't expect much. It's literally a Prius at the end of the day. So we've covered pretty much everything but the interior, so let's go ahead and do that now. So guys, this is the Prius interior. As you can see, Issa's actually retrofitted these really nice sort of seat covers. They're leather. They're finished with, you know, like a black and orange sort of contrast with the orange stitching. They're really nice. I would definitely recommend them for someone that's got a Prius, because the original seats, they're sort of a dull cloth, sort of fake Alcantara like this, and they're not really nice to sit in, whereas these are much more comfortable. Let's actually hop inside. Alright. So in terms of interior design, I think the Prius follows a theme where it's like sort of meant to be like some sort of futuristic spaceship with these like long curves along the dashboard, and obviously all your speedometer and like information's in the middle, as opposed to, you know, normal cars being it right in front of you. As for the information itself, you get your speedo, you get your, you know, your what gear you're in, you know, your mileage, and you know, your consumption. That can be changed with the steering wheel, so you've got a display button here. And what I really like about this sort of system is you get these really nice sort of white LED displays when your finger hovers above the buttons, which is really nice. But obviously these are actual physical click buttons, so that's something future car manufacturers should take note of. You know, have, you know, sort of like the touch sensitiveness where you know, it recognizes your finger, but actually have a physical click when you want to click the button or use the function. Way easier to use when you're driving. But as I said, you can change the displays with the display button on the steering wheel. So that's obviously consumption, that's more consumption. Obviously the Prius is obviously very big on like you know, economic driving, etc. So that's why you get all these displays. This is personally my favorite one, because it shows you, you know, where the power is coming from, whether that's the engine, the battery, or, you know, a combination of both. So that's really nice. And yeah, then moving on to the actual infotainment screen. So it's quite a basic one. You know, this car doesn't isn't spec'd with map, but obviously T-Spirits will have navigation installed. You know, you can just pretty much view whatever's on the screen on here. And, you know, adjust your audio settings and whatnot. It's got Bluetooth, which can be controlled here as well. You've got a voice control button, which is nice, and here's your, you know, your telephone connectivity shortcut buttons, and then obviously climate control adjustments. As for the driving position itself, I'd say the steering wheel is it can be awkward at first, but it can be adjusted as well. There's just like a mini lever here, so you can just adjust it up and down, and, you know, frontwards and backwards. But I'll be honest, there's not much adjustment in it. And then you've obviously got your climate control settings here. It's not a dual zone, it's a single zone. Nothing fancy, and there's nothing in the back as well. And obviously you've got your air vents there and there. In terms of interior quality, obviously being a Prius, being Japanese, very cheap car, so again, interior quality is going to reflect that. Really nasty scratchy plastics, a lot of creaks, especially as you're driving along. Obviously this car's not a luxury car, it's not, you know, something of what German quality, what most people would be used to. So yeah, yeah, and even on top where you'd expect soft touch, it's not, it's hard plastic. As for storage, you get two glove boxes, one on the top, one on the bottom, both filled with junk, obviously being Issa's car. But yeah, they're decently sized, not too bad. You get more storage under here, under the armrest. Nice deep storage there, I do like that. You get a cup holder here, single one, not two. Although you could keep a drink in here as well. And that obviously, if you don't want to keep anything, that just retracts there, but that's got a bottle in at the moment. You got this, obviously this is your gear stick. It's all right, it's just, you know, if you want to select reverse, the reverse camera comes up there. There's a park button. But yeah, it's nice and stubby. It's nice to use around the city. Obviously this car is built to be a city car. You also have door cubbies there. The door bins are very small. You can fit about a small bottle, and that's about it. Here's your mirror controls as well, and obviously these are blank. I'm guessing on the higher spec models like the T-Spirit, these would obviously probably be filled with I don't know, really, light controls maybe, or whatever. This car also has a heads-up display, I don't know if you guys can see it, that's just there. So obviously nothing too fancy, displays the speed, but really nice feature to see on a car as cheap as this. And yeah, that's about it for the front. Moving on to the back. So moving on to back, here is the leg room. So obviously this is my friend's driving position. He's quite short, but normally even with I'm 5'10", and you still have a decent amount of leg room in the back. You also have a lack of a transmission tunnel, which is really useful for carrying 5. Although you do have to take note of the sloping roof line, so those over 5'10" will struggle with headroom. As for additional storage, well, you get a set of cup holders in the back, which is nice, but if you want to use this as an armrest, there's no cover, so you may find that annoying. And as for door bins in the rear, you get none, which is quite a shame. Moving on to the boot, as it's already open, I think it's very decently sized compared to the Auris, which is what my brother has. Hopefully we can get that on the channel and do a comparison. This one's full of junk, as you can see. But it's quite large, and then you also get some underfloor storage, which is again filled with crap, so I do apologize for that. In general, I do apologize for the state of the car. It is quite dirty, but yeah, as far as interior goes, that's pretty much it. So now it's just time to take it for a drive. So guys, how does the Prius drive? Well, let's find out. Well, obviously we're just going to start off with some normal city roads, which is obviously where this car was built for. Obviously that's what this car's a Prius. Where do you see them? You see them on your high streets, collecting, you know, people from the clubs, whatnot, because it's a minicab's favorite choice of vehicle. As I was saying, so speed bump, perfect test for suspension. I'd say the Prius sits fairly standard ride height, but because of the shape of the body, on steeper bumps, the body can actually beach. When I say standard ride height, I actually mean it's a bit lower than you'd expect. So you do actually beach out on things that you wouldn't really expect. But in terms of normal driving, the suspension is not firm. You know, soaks up bumps decently well. It's not obviously going to be the most luxurious car, but at the same time, it's not a sporty car, so you don't feel the road as much. Brakes, obviously regen braking, so you do have to kind of get used to it. They can be a bit grabby at first, so look, so that can obviously be a bit grabby. They're very sensitive, so you just need to literally breathe your toe on it. Literally breathe your toe. But yeah, the throttle pedal is it's okay. It's obviously not going to be lightning quick, but around city is perfect. Literally, like I said, guys, this car's perfect around city. But that said, it still has its flaws. You see around here, you get quite a few blind spots, and the shape of the car in general is quite weird. Also, if you look in the rear view mirror, you can see the sort of a spoiler lid. Basically that section there, that essentially can impede view sometimes, but other than that, it's a very good city car, very economical as well. You know, around city you're definitely getting 40 mpg easily, and it's very roomy inside as well. It's obvious why minicab drivers love to use the Prius. It's cheap, it's economical, it's comfortable. And yeah, there's not much else to say when it comes to city. As well as the steering is very light, so obviously that's exactly what you want around city with your tight maneuvers, etc. You don't want some laborious heavy steering wheel like the X5. You want something nice and light. Literally you can move it like that. And yeah, that's so guys, obviously we've got these 3 different driving modes here. So at the moment we're in Eco, which is what most Prius drivers will be in. That gives you essentially, if you can see on the screen just there, that gives you essentially a readout of, you know, your throttle input, where the power is coming from, whether it's the battery, whether it's the engine, and that's Eco mode. If we try EV mode, so I'm just going to put it EV mode now, Now you can see the car's just flagged up saying it's in EV, just there. EV mode is active. And what that is, essentially, is an electric only mode. I think it's upwards up to 30 miles an hour. But if you give rapid acceleration, then obviously it goes straight to eco mode and the engine kicks in. But EV mode is obviously very useful for when you want to, you know, save fuel and just rely on the battery itself. You know, so now it's in proper EV mode, but obviously the way this battery works is it recharges with braking, like I mentioned earlier about the regenerative braking. So every time you brake, that's what charges up the battery, and obviously as the engine's running, that's what also charges up the battery. So obviously look, green light here, so if I accelerate smoothly, you can hear no engine at all. You literally just hear the electric motor. But obviously if I continue to plant my foot, see now it's just popped up with that message. If you pan the camera just on the message there on the dashboard, I don't know if you saw that, but guys, it says EV mode has been deactivated because I've given obviously more acceleration than it can handle. So now the engine is now working simultaneously with the battery, and that's pushing me along the road. So yeah, that sums up those two modes, and those two modes will obviously get you the best MPG and best sort of range and mileage out of your fuel tank. Then you obviously have power mode, which I'll demonstrate later once obviously the roads open up. The power mode is essentially obviously that's just engine you know, fully on, even when idling, just to make sure that you're ready and you want to, you know, set off straight away from the lights or a roundabout, etc. So that's what power mode is usually used for, and it's perfect. You know, obviously it's a Prius, it's not going to be rapid, but I'll tell you what, a lot of people, even on my TikToks and whatnot, they're very surprised about the pace of the Prius. It does actually get moving. 0 to 60 is around 10 seconds. So, you know, it's obviously not lightning quick, but it's still something, you know. We can try power mode right now. That's obviously a quick blast, but yeah, I mean, because of that obviously instant torque from the battery, it does get going. But obviously I will show you what power mode can really do later on, and we can cover handling dynamics as well. So the brakes are very good. And yeah, I think the Prius is perfect to just put around in, you know, even if you do want to go put your foot down a little, it doesn't disappoint too much. So yeah guys, that's power mode.
What's my overall verdict on the Prius? It's a no-brainer as to why minicab drivers love this car. It's cheap to run, with its free road tax and parking permit, as well as insanely good fuel consumption. If you can see past the dull steering and the cheap interior quality, then I would recommend getting this car as a cheap daily. For now, I've been Maddwhips. Please like, share and subscribe. Comment down below what you'd like to see.